Two angels were traveling two angels were talking while traveling south on the 99. One turned to the other and asked, "Have you ever saved a life?" I've never saved a life. But every morning I wake up, walk over to my sleeping angel, see her little chest heave, and I can breathe. I need to be moved. Most days I feel I'm walking through an emotionless dust bag waiting to be dumped amongst other unwanted remnants of lives. Life is a universe so circus. Most people aren't brave enough for the high wire or to fly the trapeze, so the world is overloaded with clowns. Just a bunch of showman shells filled with big voices and phony acts saying nothing I can believe in. I need to be moved. Most times I feel I'm just a compressed set of lungs, a dormant trachea, a dry esophagus, a nostril refusing to breathe until I choke on the dust of the Muslim refugee camp tent of Fatima, circumcised for something she may or may not believe in. The women gather to hold her like tears sliding down Christopher's cheek, told real men aren't supposed to cry, but he can't figure out what to do with the abandonment left in heart by mother, who couldn't figure out how to keep a roof over his head, clothes on his back or food in his belly, like Sasha's admiration, reaching up to a parent, not to be embraced by arms by the fact that you can't see her ribs anymore, because in her homeland, skinny bodies are a sign of poverty, but in America, anything more than the weight of Barbie is less than precious. She grew into a supersized self-complex of a psychological eating disorder trapped between a magazine's self-image and a self-portrait her mother can be proud of. I have to wonder if this generation's obsession with aliens, vampires, and zombies is a metaphor for how strange we feel in our bodies, and how many angels walk around counting the lives they save when I awake every morning, walk over to my sleeping angel, see her little chest heave before giving myself permission to breathe. Most days, it's not about how many lives you save, but how many times you can count your life being saved in that day. Two angels were talking while traveling south on the 99. I just looked at them and thank God for the angels that don't know that they're saving lives. So when I got the call to come out and perform tonight, I asked if they wanted me to write something specifically for this evening. I was told yes, go ahead and do it. And I wanted to give back to Brown because I moved here from Boston I'm from New Jersey originally. I moved here from Boston about maybe 10 years ago, and I've been a part of the Word community for about 9 of those 10 years, and I've been performing at Rights and Reasons. I want to say Karen Baxter over there has been great to me and taught me a lot about acting. And as far as Rick Benjamin has been awesome, Professor Brown. And I wanted to give back, so I wrote this poem. It's called Boxing Tables. My great-grandmother used to summon all the children of her clan together to tell us stories, each one starting off the same. She would say, I was a slave, my mother was a slave, my mother's mother was a slave. In this manner, we learn the story of how my great-grandfather bought my great-grandmother's freedom. If you ever worked for Brown University in the catering department, then you would know the first thing you learn is the Brown way of boxing tables is to hold the tablecloth from its corner and center with the lip facing inward, starting from the inside corner of the table. Hold the tablecloth where it just barely kisses the ground, ensuring that the legs of the table cannot be seen. Yeah, y'all worked, huh? My great-grandmother's legs, some 90 plus years old at her passing, remained covered to the ankle on most of the hottest of Georgia red dirt summer days. Even when dancing, the hem of her dress would just barely shake to the cadence of the one-speaker transistor gospel filling the entire house from the shelf over the gas stove. The purpose of boxing tables was to keep anything ugly up under the tables from being public. The only time you do not box tables at Brown is when the table legs are nice enough to remain noticeable. Ironically, My first catering gig at Brown was the 2012 commencement, where then President Ruth J. Simmons gave her final speech. It was that day that I learned to fold the tablecloth over the table, place another cloth on top of it to keep it center, wrap the remainder of the cloth around the edges, create 45-degree folds in the cloth from the surface at the adjacent corners of the table while laying the cloth flat. In 2003, Ruth Simmons appointed a steering committee on slavery and justice. I was a slave, my mother was a slave, my mother's mother was a slave. My great-grandmother always had these cautionary anecdotes, followed by a story for any situation I could possibly face in life, like, choose your ruts wisely, you never know how long you're gonna have to lie in them. Followed by a yarn about my Uncle Bubba, Uncle Bill, a fox in a chicken coop, like, a hard head makes a soft behind, followed by the story of my mother staying out too late to be with a 6th grade crush, and never turn your back on your past, no matter how beautiful or ugly. You never know when the past can bite you or help you. Followed by my great-grandfather being set free to return to his tribe, but not leaving without the only woman in the field that can make him laugh. The steering committee chose to start the report of its findings with the story of Admiral Esek Hopkins' family clock. The Brown way of boxing tables is to hold the tablecloth as its corners and center with the lip facing inward. The story of Esek Hopkins and the brigantine ship the Sally, owned by Nicholas Brown and Company, would have remained a set of unseen dancing legs underneath a barely moving hem of cloth, just barely kissing the ground. The steering committee asked, what would happen if we confronted a history that is beautiful and honorable, as well as horrifying and shameful? And how do we, as members of the Brown community and said citizens of Rhode Island and citizens of the United States, reconcile those aspects of our history? Fold the cloth over the table, place another cloth on top of it to keep it center, wrap the remainder of the cloth around the edge, create 45-degree folds in the cloth from the surface and the adjacent corners of the table while laying the cloth flat. If my great-grandmother was alive today, I bet she would have an anecdote like, choose your ruts wisely, with the yarn about the voyage of the Sally and how a failed insurrection took the lives of 90-plus slaves, and how it raised the morality questions of slavery on a Rhode Island college campus amongst the students as well as the faculty board. She would say, hard heads make a soft behind, followed by many of Brown board members and benefactors participated or drew at least part of their wealth from the transatlantic slave trade. But it was Brown that was the beginning of the abolitionist movement of the slave trade, and the first prosecutions against illegal slavery in American history were brought by members of Brown Board trustees against other members of Brown Board trustees. I was a slave, my mother was a slave, the Brown way of boxing tables. I can hear her say, you never know when the past will bite you or help you, no matter how beautiful or ugly. And her mentioning Brown alums like Congressman James Toolmidge, John Hope, and Inman Page, Brown's first African-American graduate. She would say, without Brown, there would be no Ulrich Heinz or Higgs boson. She would talk about Shosing's son and the smallest iron oxidized nanoparticles to date for cancer detection by MRI. My great-grandmother was about community in the same manner as Brown's deep, long-standing commitment to undergrads, congratulating not only the scientists and students of the master's programs. My great-grandmother gathered all her children of her tribe together to tell us stories, ensuring that when we venture out, we can look back to our point of origin, see that what my family history has of taking what was just okay and making it better. I had the opportunity to hear Christine Paxon speak. She said, Brown has a way of taking what's okay and doing it better, like integrating into a fast-moving world and having an impact on that world. If my great-grandmother was still alive, I'd tell her about this moment. I'd bet she'd say, tell Brown University there's nothing about her legs to be ashamed of. And she would proudly pull up her skirt and dance.